All right, how is everybody doing? So happy to have you all here. If you can hear me good, go ahead and throw a 1 in the chat for me. If you can see me, let's see what we got. Yay, hello, hello. Hello, Jennifer Wheeler. I love seeing you following me. It's been great. Hello, hello. What's up, everyone? Okay, great. Yay, perfect. Good to see that. I can see everybody. I love that. Okay, so let's get started with session 2. I'm so excited. I feel like, first of all, to any of you that followed me after session 1, thank you. It's been so good to actually talk with some of you over on Instagram. I know like the cyber world is kind of weird and fun and interesting, but at least it's a way that we can stay connected. And I love hearing from you guys, talking from you guys. So if anytime you guys want to take some screenshots and feature me on your stories, I love that kind of stuff. So feel free to do that. I promise I'll repost stuff. It's just so much fun. So thank you, thank you. All right. So are you guys ready to get started? Because I know I've been so excited about this. So let's talk a little bit about the overview of today. So if you joined me in session 1, you got a little bit of a breakdown of like the journey that we're going to take over this whole workshop series. And today we are going to be talking about finding your why. So the way that we're going to break this down is the first thing I'd love to do is always start out with a session intention so that you know and you understand like why are we doing all this? Like what is it that you are to get out of it? Okay. Today, I'm going to guide you through a grounding practice, and I like to start out all my sessions with a grounding practice. We didn't do this last week because we had so much to cover, but a grounding practice really helps to set your body up to receive the information, but also to become more aligned with your train of thought. We're going to discuss what really matters in your life. We're going to talk about values, your life priorities, and ultimately like finding your why and like why is that important, and then we're going to go over support tools for the next couple sessions. Okay, so what is the intention of today? Okay, what is the mission that we are trying to achieve in today's session? So today's session is to help you identify your most important priorities and values. I hope that after today, like maybe not like immediately after this session, but sometime today, you're going to be able to mindfully declare your why so that you can start living with a little bit more purpose and direction. That's the goal here, right? And start setting the vision for the future you. And in a little bit, I'm going to discuss like what that means and how that ties into looking and feeling your best in your beauty, because it is such an important piece and a huge part. Okay. But let's start off with a little bit of a grounding practice. You guys know this because I talked to you about this last week, that like I'm a firm believer in meditation and mindfulness as a practice and how that really helps to bridge the gap between our logical mind and our hearts and like our self-connection. And mindful grounding practices are things that you can do to just help slow down. In the salon world, in corporate world, in a lot of worlds, we don't have enough opportunity to just take a moment to slow down. And we're going to actually talk about that in a little bit. But what I would love to do right now is wherever you guys are in the world, if you have a pen in your hand, put it down. If you have your cell phone in your hand, like put that down for a moment. Like just put everything away and just like take a moment to sit and arrive in your body. Okay. Take that moment, like fidget, get all the fidgets out. Like if you need to like roll your shoulders back, like do that. If you need to like, you know, adjust your neck, adjust your pillows, like do all of that right now. And I would love for you to just like put your feet flat on the floor, just lean back into whatever chair you're in right now. Put your hands softly on your lap or on the armrest, whatever that looks like, and just close your eyes. Okay? Right now, take a deep breath in through your nose, deep, and release with an exhale out through your mouth. Take a second deep inhale in through the nose and release with an exhale out through the mouth. And take a moment to just arrive into your body. Notice any sensations that you might feel in your neck, loosening your jaw, loosening your shoulders, relaxing your arms, softening the hips, softening the knees and the legs. And just take one more moment to slow down and feel your body. Don't think with the mind, just feel the body. For one more moment. And at any point, softly start to bring your chin down to your chest. Softly open your eyes and arrive back where you are in your present state. Take your time coming back. Okay? It's okay to ease into these practices and into the session. We don't always have to be putting the gas pedal all the way down to the floor. Okay? I love to start that way because one of the things that I'm going to talk about today is the easiest way to get out of your mind and out of your head is to get into your body. We're going to talk a lot about that over the next sessions. Getting into your body allows you to truly release instead of being up here. Okay? I also want to introduce you to my cat. She just jumped on my lap. This is Lacey, by the way. Here she is. She's going to be a staple at some of these sessions. She loves grounding practices, so she tends to sit on me during grounding practices. So if you have a pet, you know how it goes working from home life. Okay. Now that we are grounded, let's get ready to flow. Here we are in the flow. Remember, we are starting with mindset and self-connection. We'll worry about nutrition and lifestyle in a couple weeks, self-care, rituals, but we are focusing on strengthening your mental fitness and your self-connection today. And to recap from where we were before, we are starting with finding your why. It is step one in the beauty flow method. We are going to talk about your lifestyle and values assessment. We're going to establish what's important to your life. Why do you do what you do? What are your values? Who do you want to be? And setting your vision. You know, I get a lot of questions, and this is like the coolest part. Like, why? Okay, if we're talking about beauty and we're talking about just the simple act of looking and feeling your best, because I know there's some gentlemen on this session, right? All we want to do is look and feel our best, especially when we're in the beauty industry, right? There's a lot of us who feel like, you know, this is part of our persona, this is part of our act, this is what we identify with, especially when we're hairstylists. Like, why is mindset such a critical component to beauty or looking and feeling your best? And I think it's such a great discussion because the human body is so complex. Beauty is complex. Beauty is like a system, okay? And remember, beauty is not the destination. It's a vehicle to you looking and feeling your best. And if looking and feeling your best is the end goal, right? If that is the end goal, there's no way of getting there unless we have the mindset to prepare ourselves to do what it takes to look and feel our best. But in order to have that mindset, there has to be some sort of organization in our mind, in our day, in order for us to really connect to how to get there. So the connection of finding your why and finding your beauty is the infrastructure for you to organize how you're going to get there. This is the how. Okay. Because remember, I talked to you guys all last week about, like, I'm sure a lot of you just go out there and you Google all the information. Like, you know what to do, right? You know that there is a science to just eating better and meditating and working out. Like, you know all this, right? But then it's like, how do we do it? Like, how do we actually implement and transform? And what I have realized in my clients, in my process that I've worked with for over the year and a half, was that the first step was really understanding, like, what was important in life. Because when you connect to what really is important in your life, and you really start to filter out all the stuff that doesn't matter, and you have a clear, single pointed focus on really what does matter, you start to get the glow up, because you glow differently when you're aligned. When you start to align with what feels good, right? You get this energetic shift that just makes you glow. Remember, inner balance equals outer radiance. And that's why we're going to start with finding our why, okay? Now, I want to start with a quote, because I really love this author. His name is Simon Sinek. Has anybody ever read his books? If just, like, say yes if you read his books, like, throw it in the chat, or tell me no if you've ever heard of Simon Sinek. He is a brilliant author. If any of you are in any leadership positions, yes, love. Okay, Marilyn, you love Simon Sinek. Yes. Okay, Avery, you love Simon Sinek. Yes, yes. Okay, yes. So good. All right. If you are in a leadership position, Simon Sinek, his books are amazing. He's written the books like Leaders Eat Last. He's written Find Your Why, The Infinite Game, Start With Why. Like, he's written some really amazing books to help direct leaders to make a difference in the lives of the people that they lead. And what I love is that he says, once you know your why, you have a choice to live it every day. Living it means to consistently taking actions that are in alignment with what you say. When the things we say and then things that we do are aligned with what we believe, we are fully living in our why, okay? And we're going to talk about, like, why your why is so important to you, especially, like, listen, there's so much going on in our world, and we're going to really talk about that. And we're stacked up against a lot of odds. Like, being a modern day human is not easy, right? If you agree with me, being a modern day human is not easy, give me a 1. Like, I need to hear from you. Tell me if you agree with that. Like, who, like, one, like, 1 across the board, right? Ones, like, yes. Okay, Samantha, I see your 1s. Sophie, I see your 1s. Like, I see them, right? I see you. Being a modern day human has so many challenges, right? For example, we have obstacles that no other human in our civilizations has ever had to deal with. And we're still learning how to overcome those obstacles, like information overload. Our human brain is physically not designed to have the capacity to absorb the information that we are exposed to on a daily basis. It is not designed for that. And when you overheat a car or overheat something, what happens to it? It fritzes, right? We're up against social media. Okay, this is something that, like, scientists and therapists and psychologists all over the world right now are trying to figure out how to navigate social media for our human brains, because we're not equipped for this. We don't have the circuitry in our brain to take in all of the psychological effects of social media. Okay, and especially being in the beauty industry, I think that we have been impacted so much by social media. I mean, I could tell you right now, when I was first a makeup artist, there was no iPhones. There were no There wasn't Pinterest, there wasn't Instagram, there wasn't Facebook. I think I had a flip phone. I think Sex and the City was like the #1 show at the time. And I saw Carrie Bradshaw had a flip phone, and I was like, I need to have a flip phone. Like that's what, like when we started, like face charts is what we were inspired by. And then once social media came, the whole makeup artistry industry, beauty industry, and I know for hair, it just got flipped upside down, right? And so there's so much that we have to navigate with the ever-changing climate of that. But not only that, we're stacked up against current events and what's going on in our world, right? You turn on the news, you see, right? We're stacked up against like financial questions, like, hey, the gig economy is a real economy. Like what are we gonna do, right? We're stacked up against those stresses. Employment, right? COVID did it in for a lot of people where people have to really assess like what's going on. And, you know, speaking of COVID, like global challenges, like we have a worldwide pandemic going on. I mean, and especially if you're a mom and you have kids at home from school, like my kids right now are downstairs doing school still, right? Like there are so many stresses that are going on right now. So then we've got the work-life balance. Then we've got home responsibilities. Like I don't know if you can relate. So moms, dads, whoever, like not only am I a working mom, I am also a maid, a cook. I'm also, I mean, I'm like everything that you can think of, like talk about overload, right? The home responsibilities. I've got my kids, my family, my parents are getting older. Like if all this stuff is going on. And then there's social pressures, right? We've got the social pressures of like mommy shaming is a real thing, right? Beauty shaming is a real thing where like people don't feel like they're enough because they're seeing all this stuff going on in society. Like social pressures are real, right? But what it boils down to is like it's time management. So like what gives? Like if we're stacked up all against this, like how do we control how we experience these experiences? Because remember, you cannot control your experiences, but you can control how you experience your experiences, right? And it really does boil down to, if you want to live a very linear, like really joyful life, it's like, what are your priorities? You've got to start there. Because if you don't declare your priorities, then all this list right here that probably gave you all heart palpitations, you're probably already breathing into a paper bag. I mean, I need a glass of water after this. Like, holy cow, right? Your priorities help guide you to focus on what makes you feel good and what really matters. I always get for my clients, especially in the beginning, not at the end because they know better, but in the beginning when I'm working with clients, they always say things to me like, you know, I just wish I had time to work out, or I wish I had time to eat better and meal prep. I wish I had this time, right? Because remember, our lives are going 100 miles an hour. And here's my response, and I'm going to say this to all of you, right? It's not that you don't have time. It's that it's just not a priority right now, because that can change. I want you to sit with this for a minute, because silent moments, get ready for silent moments, because silent moments is when you really start to digest. It's not that you don't have time to work out, babe, it's just that it's not your priority. And that's okay. It's okay. It doesn't have to be your priority. Don't confuse the two. Because you have time to open up your phone in the morning and scroll on Facebook and Instagram for 15 minutes. It's just not your priority to work out. That's okay. So what I want you to practice, this is practice number 1, is stop saying I don't have time for it. Just say it's not my priority right now. Because right now is just now. It doesn't mean tomorrow. It doesn't mean next week. Okay? Who in the chat is ready to practice this? Tell me in the chat. I need to hear from you. Like, who's ready to practice this mindset shift of like, okay, no, it's not that I don't have time. I have time. It's just not my priority. Right? Do you guys agree with that? Totally, right? Because I can tell you right now, okay, I'm a coach. I have the tools. I know better, right? I don't work out every day. And I used to say it's not that I don't have time to work out. You know, I got the kids at home. I got to get them from school. It's not my priority. You want to know what is my priority? Making sure my kids are fed so that they have breakfast so that they can go to school. It's my priority that I sleep like 5 more minutes. But you know what? I'm going to shift that priority tomorrow. And tomorrow my priority will be to get my 20 minutes of Pilates in the morning. And that's okay, because don't have shame and guilt about it. That's going to be the first way you're going to really blow your beauty flow, is with shame and guilt. So mindset shifts like this is going to be huge. Okay. So you might be asking yourself, well, self, what really, like, what does matter? Like, what, okay, if I really wanted to start and figure out what matters, it starts with priorities, right? Priorities are the things that are regarded as more important than anything else, right? So like, that's what matters right now, is establishing your priorities. And I bet up until this point, you probably hadn't put your priorities on pen to paper. Okay. Pen to paper, there's a magic in there. There's an energetic release when you do pen to paper. Okay. Finger to cell phone, next best, not gonna lie. Like, okay, if you're taking notes on your cell phone, like, cool. I would rather you do that than just try to like sit back and like take it all in. But pen to paper, there's something about writing with your hands. I mean, you guys all work with your hands, right? You're stylists. There's a creative outlet that comes with working your hands. I'm a makeup artist. When I do makeup, I love this working with my hands. What I'm gonna invite you to do today is really sit down and understand your priorities. I'm not asking you to have them clarified by the end of this hour. I'm gonna ask you to have them clarified by the time you go to bed tonight. That's it. Remember, a coach is gonna be here to support you and mentor you, but also kick you in the butt in a loving way when you need it. And if you're here today, if you showed up, give yourself what matters and do it today. Don't wait till Monday, because I always hear, I'm gonna do it on Monday. Well, guess what? Today is Monday. Today's the day you're gonna start what you said you were gonna start next week. You're gonna do it today. Your priorities, right? So here's how we're gonna do it. We gotta go with step 1. First, we have to identify our values. Then we're gonna understand where our energy is going and where we want it to go. And then we're gonna officially declare our why, okay? I'm so excited. I hope you guys are excited. Yes, already? Have you learned anything already? Like, tell me, say, give me a 2 if you've learned anything already. Did you guys learn anything? Still, okay, just one. Okay, Brooke, yep, Anna, good, Jamie, yep, thanks. Okay, I'm hoping, because you know, I'm not getting any feedback, so all I got is the chat. So I'm hoping we're jiving here. Awesome. Yay, thanks guys, awesome. Okay, so our values, right? I want to encourage you not to look for values that belong to anybody else but yourself, okay? Your values are used as your guide. They are your principles or standards of behavior, you know, your judgment of what is important in life. You can have your family values. Okay, I've gone to there was an exercise that I handed out to everybody last week. We're going to talk about that. If you didn't do it, no worries. I've done it with my husband, and we've declared our family values. You know, you might have community values, you may have work values, but I am more interested today in what are your personal values. What do you find the most important? Okay, isn't this picture so pretty? Like, I'm just like, yes, I want to be in an ocean of diamonds. Can I do that? Is that real? I hope so. Okay. Last week, you had this exercise available to you where it was a values assessment. And if you did it, I want to know, did anybody do it? Give me a 1 in the chat if you actually completed this last week. Let me see what you got. Did you do it? Okay, we got 1 person, a couple people. Okay, awesome. All right. If you, ooh, and I got a star from Sophie. Okay, Sophie, thank you. It wasn't emailed. I believe it was put on a portal. So, or wherever you register for these sessions, it was there. So if you didn't do it, I'm sure it's still available. You can always go back and get it. And if you didn't do it, that's okay, because I'm going to give you some more direction today. Like, no worries. Like, again, I'm never going to force you to do anything. I'm just going to give you advice. Unless you were my one-on-one client, then I'd be like, okay, no, we got to make a good play here. But this one is a good one. This exercise is where you can identify your top 4 to 5 values. Now, I bet you when you did this, you were like, this list, they're all my values. They're all important to me, right? Like, I bet all of you were like, what do you mean I have to like dial it down to 4 to 5? I bet it took me like 2 days to do this when I did it originally. But when you start to really think about what each value means, you can kind of pair them together. So like, for example, one of my values on my list is community. But I also bucket like anybody in my family as my community. Like, they are my solid group of people. So my family, my friends, they're in my community. My clients, they're in my community. The people, like my people, you guys are my people. You are all my community. Like, you are my values. Like, my priority is to serve my community, my beauty flow, my family community, right? Like, so you can start to group things together here. The important thing is to narrow down to 4 to 5. No more than 5. And we do that because this is your guiding light. Remember, this is your guide. I want you to think of your map. Like, this is your roadmap. This is the framework of where you're going to begin with understanding where your time goes, who you want to be. I had this really amazing session. One of my clients graduated from my program 2 weeks ago. And one of the things that she told me at the end of the program was she thanked me because she was always a people pleaser. She was always a person that when somebody asked her to do something, she would be like, yes, I would do it, because she wanted to be giving. Like, she had a really great heart. And one of the things that she realized is when she went through this value exercise is that she started to, when she was faced with a big decision, she would go back to her values and ask, is this decision in line with my values? And she was actually offered a really amazing opportunity. And compassion was one of her values. I can tell you that because you don't know her, but compassion was one of her values. And she was offered this amazing opportunity that from the outside, anybody would be like, are you crazy? Take the opportunity. But she realized that if compassion was one of her value, taking the opportunity would not be compassionate to herself, because she knew that it would ask more of her than she was willing to give. And she knew it wouldn't be compassionate to her family because it would ask more of her than what she would be able to then give her family. And when she really sat with it, she was like, I can't take this opportunity because it doesn't align with my value deep down in me, right? And so she said no. And she told me that after she said no, when she learned, like, okay, that was my value, like, she felt this energetic release because she felt pressure to take the opportunity. Because remember, from the outside, it looked like an offer you couldn't refuse. But internally in her body, she was like, this is not right. And when she said no, the release of cortisol flew out of her body. And cortisol is that one chemical, it's a stress chemical, that actually will derail your beauty flow and the way you feel and look faster than any other thing in your body. So cortisol, and this is what we're going to talk a lot about that and opt for better choices, but cortisol induces the flight or flight and freeze response in your body. It taps into your sympathetic nervous system. When your sympathetic nervous system is consistently on, you will overheat your body. And what I mean by overheat, I don't mean like, like hot flashes overheat, but like literally overheat the body, the immune system specifically. And this is where chronically, when you're overheating your immune system with stress, this is where inflammation begins. And inflammation is a it's basically your immune system going into overreactive states. And when that happens, it actually can trigger autoimmune diseases because you have an overactive immune system. And it triggers like hyperthyroidism, it triggers all kinds of things, right? And ultimately what cortisol then does is it takes the nutrients away from the parts of your body that really don't matter. And what I mean by don't matter, your hair, skin, and nails. Because what matters are your big organs. So when we start to strip the nutrients from our hair, skin, and nails, they become dry, problematic. This is where accelerated aging comes from. And so what my goal is for you is to give you tools on how to not switch on the switch to cortisol. And cortisol only gets switched on by your response to stress, or if a saber-toothed tiger is coming after you, right? Your body doesn't know the difference between a saber-toothed tiger chasing you, right? That was why this nervous system got put into our body so that we could alert danger. Because when humans started, right, there were no emails, there was no Instagram. It was just a saber-tooth tiger, right? But now your body doesn't know if it's an email from your boss that set you off or a text from your boyfriend that set you off. It still sends you in that stress response. But when you start to not align with your values, you're going to start to feel that in your body, right? Do you guys find that interesting? Or, I mean, again, I'm just talking to myself. Like, give me a 1 if you find that interesting. Like, yes, like totally, right? So when you see people who are super stressed out, especially moms, like I always say, like new moms, like right after you have a baby, like that first 100 days after having a baby, like your cortisol levels, your hormones are going all over the place. You look the worst than you ever have in your life, right? You're not sleeping, you're not eating, you're not doing all this. You got so much going on, right? Like that is the epitome of like a cortisol like tornado. But people who just look like, who live an easy life, like they just look like they glow a little bit more because the lack of cortisol allows the nutrients to hit their hair, skin, and nails in ways that provide moisture, provide a stronger skin barrier. So this is why beauty flow is so important to me, is because beauty is so complicated. It's a system. And if you don't look at how you approach your stress and react to your stress, then you're going to have a harder time having the skin that you want. Because remember, you're not going to get that skin from foundation and skincare. You're going to get it from the inside out. It's like, right? So start with your values. And when you identify your Fortify values, you basically have identified like what's important to me in my life. And when you start to see things on paper, it triggers a different response system in your body versus when you talk about it. So I have a place for you to put this in just one moment. So stay with me, okay? Now, this is one piece to the puzzle. We could go down all of these different types of routes, but this is one piece that I think is going to serve you well. The second piece is to identify your life priorities, okay? Because your life is not, like no one's life is linear. Like everyone's life has all of these different caveats. Everyone's life has these different types of, circumstances. Remember, you can't control your circumstances. You cannot control as much as you think you are in control, babe. I have another thing to tell you. You are not in control. Okay. You can't control if it's going to snow tomorrow and it's like 60 degrees out in Chicago right now. It's going to snow. You can't control that. You can't control the pandemic. You can't control, if J-Lo is going to break up with Alex Rodriguez. Like you can't control that stuff, right? But you can control how you respond. Okay. So what I want you to think about is like all of the areas of your life. And I have to tell you this, okay? From being a health coach as long as I have and being on this earth as long as I have, the areas of your life actually nourish you more than food does, okay? A loving relationship nourishes you more than kale, okay? Being happy in your career nourishes you more than protein. So when I look at the areas of your life, I say like what nourishes you, like physically, okay? There's a lot of science, and I'm not gonna get into it today, but there's a lot of actual data and science that talks about how loneliness does decrease your lifespan. And the way that happens is there is this, in your autonomic nervous system, there's something called the vagus nerve, and it runs like basically throughout like a lot of your body from the top to like your seat. And the vagus nerve is like the nerve that needs to be comforted, and it needs to be like, it needs to have connection, an energetic connection. It needs to have hugs. It needs to have like that physical touch. And without that, it actually can trigger your parasympathetic nervous system, like the fight or flight response, even more, unless you don't have that hug, right? Because like, how many of you guys have like ever had a hug and you're like, oh my God, I just feel so much better? Or especially like if you've gone through a breakup, okay, and you haven't hugged someone in a really long time, and that first hug, you feel like you could just melt and like you just feel better, right? So there's a lot of science behind that. But I want you to think about the areas of your life that fueled your joy. Okay, and in the assessment that I handed out last week, there's an exercise, and I'm going to show you guys in a moment. Like, I want you to think about like, where do you spend most of your time? I know it's at work, guys. Listen, same here. We spend more time at work than we do anywhere in our life, right? And I know we're on a work call, so I want to be more like specific here. Like, if you're going to spend your time at work, let's love it. Let's love it. And if you don't love it, but you want to, there are ways to get you there. There are ways to get you to love your work and fall back in love with work, right? So where do you spend most of your time outside of work is also what I want you to know. Like, do you spend it, you know, with friends? Where would you like to spend more of your time? Where would you like to spend more of your time? You have the control. You are a sovereign being. You can control wherever you want to spend your time. For the most part, right? Unless your boss is like, no, I need you here at 5. Then you got to do that. But like for the most part, right? The idea of understanding your life priorities, and in this exercise that I'm going to show you, is about bringing the real you and the ideal you closer together. You remember from last week, I talked about there are like 100 different versions of you. 100 different versions. But right, for these sessions, I'm more concerned with the real you and the ideal you. The further apart those versions of you are, the more internal friction you experience. Okay, so the whole idea of my coaching program is to bring those versions of you closer together. So I like to start with the areas that nourish you the most, okay? So this is called the happiness exercise, and it was in that worksheet. It's in the same worksheet as the values. So it's literally the second exercise behind it. And in this exercise, you literally take this circle and draw like almost like a pie graph of where you spend most of your time. And again, I just gave you some ideas, and I forgot to say this in the values section. Like, if you have something you need to add, like add it. Like, this is just a guide. This is just general, right? But what I find is that most people spend their time or lack of time in like their health, their physical activity, home cooking, home environment, relationships, social life, joy, play, family, spirituality, creativity, finances, career, and education. Like, this is like kind of what most people spend their time in. And like, so like, look at your day, like where, or your life, like take a week. Where do you spend most of your time? And then I want you to think about where you would wish to spend most of your time. Now, in my coaching program, on the one-on-one, it's very hard in this format, but in the one-on-one session, we spend a vast amount of time coaching you to get to this like place where you spend your time in an ideal way that makes you happy. So good. It's so good because now you know, like, listen, if a value of mine is health and I really want to spend time on my health, like I know I need to spend, like, this is something I really want for myself. But when you start to see how much time you actually spend on it versus how much time you want to spend on it, guess what happens? you start to make more of a mental note. There's a part in your brain called the reticular activation system in your brain that it's in charge of like your not your peripheral vision, but like your peripheral mindset. Like I'll give you a really good example of how this works. Like, you know, when you buy a car, okay, I just bought an Atlas. My husband and I just got an Atlas. Like literally, I've never had a Volkswagen before. And I never, if you had asked me what an Atlas looked like, I would never have been able to tell you. But guess what? I have one now. And guess what? I see Atlases everywhere. And I was like, oh, that's okay. Yeah. Like, it's kind of like that, right? Like once you start to become aware of something, you start to think it over and over again. This is going to help you with that. Like I really want you to take the moment to find out where you're spending your time. Like what are your time priorities, and like where do you want it to be? When you bridge those gaps, you're going to start to see your ideal you and the real you starting to shift closer together, overlap. And you'll experience less internal friction. And the opposite of internal friction is joy. And when you feel joy, you feel less cortisol. When you have less cortisol, what does that do to the way you look and the way you feel? Deep. I know, guys. I know. I can't even hear you, but I feel like I feel you. All right. Do you agree? Can you give me like a yes if I agree? Yes, no, yes. Some of you? Okay. Thank you. Means a lot. I just need to hear from you guys. Okay. Yay. All right. So on to like the bigger picture. Okay. So like your values are your guide. They help you to like make really good decisions. They help you to be like, okay, is this in line with my values? Like major decisions. If it's not, let me figure out a really kind way of saying no. Let me set some boundaries. Your priorities, like your life priorities like this really helps to give you guide on like where you want to spend your time. Because again, time is a valuable resource that we all say we don't have. And to an extent, we don't have the time, right? But we do have the time to do things that are not our priorities, right? We do have the time to spend. I mean, have you guys even checked your screen? Like, you know, you get your screen report at the end of the week and you're like, how did I spend 4 hours a day on my screen? Like, or whatever, you know, it's like crazy. Like, and I'm guessing your priority wasn't Instagram or Facebook. I'm guessing, right? So it's about shifting those priorities. But the deep-seated purpose here is to find your why. Why do you do what you do? And I don't necessarily consider just like what you do as a living, because you are not, you know, a hairstylist. It's what you do. I am not a coach. It's what I do. Okay. I am Sandy. I'm a person. And when I find what drives me as the individual, and I don't identify with what I do, what drives me, it can really help to renew my passion and give me a better filter to make decisions by. Your why is your deep-seated purpose. It's like a cause or belief. It's the source of your passion and your inspiration. Don't confuse who you are with what you do. Because what if one day you want to change what you do? Talk about a holy shit moment. Happened to me a couple of years ago. Like, yeah, I want to be more than just a makeup artist. So I'm not just a makeup artist, but for so long I identified with that. Like when somebody like asks me, like, tell me about yourself, the first thing that comes out of my mind is like what I do. I didn't do that anymore. When somebody asks me like, what do you do? I always start with like, you know what? I'm somebody who loves art, who loves style, who loves my family. I'm somebody who, and when I don't start with what I do, it's very confusing to people, but I think it makes sense. It's about finding why, what makes you tick. Now I can bet a lot of you, especially after COVID, might have like been thinking about like you just reassess. Like every 7 years you come back, you reassess where you are in life, whether it's your career or beyond that, relationship. You probably reassess like what is important to me. This is something that a lot of people have done over the past year. And I'm guessing you probably find this in your clients as well, right? And being there for other people while they're finding their purpose and their why can be kind of exhausting. So you kind of have to protect yourself when you're helping other people finding their why. But for you, finding your why is so beautiful, right? Because, and don't be afraid to find your why, right? Because sometimes you have to go down the wrong street to get to the right street. You got to go down the wrong path to get you on your right path. And that's okay. But finding your why will help you to get to your right path sooner. So first, let's look at this diagram right here. This diagram actually came from Simon Sinek's, one of his books. I love his books. And it talks about like, this is specifically to companies. Like, you know, a lot of companies do things a little backwards. Like they first start when they're starting companies, they start with like what they're going to do. Then they figure out like how they're going to do it. But like, they don't really think about why they're doing what they're doing. And the idea is to actually flip this on the inside out. Like figure out first why you're doing what you're doing. Figure out why you show up. Don't think about how you're going to show up or what you're going to do as you show up, but just think about why you show up. What is your purpose? Like, why do you, and here's the thing. You sometimes got to tap into like your heart and your body for that. You can't just always mind, you can't be in the mind about it. But the why taps into the emotional part of your brain and the limbic part of your brain. We're going to talk about neuroscience next week. But in that part of your brain, you actually connect to an emotion. And when people connect to an emotion, they actually feel their fire a little bit more. You create more of a tangible feeling, not only within you, but other people, okay? How you get there and how to do your why is important because you got to know like the tactile steps, like you got to be tactical about it, okay? But what you do is the end result. So like and I'm going to just like use this as an example, right? Like, why do you do hair? Like, think about that. Let's take a moment to think about like, or if you work at Salon Service Group, like, why did you choose to work there? What was it that brought you excitement to work there? Right? When you start to think about that why, it starts to create a little flame in you. When you start to think about like how you do your job, a lot of you have a pride in how you do your job. A lot of pride in that. But that doesn't make that flame burn higher or flame up more, right? It's just like, yeah. And then when you think about what you do, it almost diminishes the flame a little bit. Like each step out diminishes the flame. There's so much, I feel like humans, we think about like what we're doing, how we're going to do it, but we don't really think about the why of what we're doing it. Now that's just an example because we're all feeling, we're all in a work environment here. So I like to use that in an example, but think about like your overall, like why, like take work out of it because remember, it's what you do. It's not who you are. Why do you show up every day? Okay. So you guys take a snapshot of this page, this part of the PowerPoint, because I think it's going to be really, really good for you to see how to break down, like how to write your why. So think about it this way. Your why is like, what is your contribution and your impact? Like, what do you want to contribute and impact? Because I got to tell you this, like, it's about your legacy. Like when you leave this earth, hopefully not anytime soon, right? What is your legacy that you want to leave behind? Like, what does that look like? Again, you don't have to have the answer right now. I want you to think about it today. Latest have the answer tomorrow, but think about it today. Like, what do you want to contribute to this world? What do you want to impact? So I shared with you my why, and I wrote it right here. Like my why is to help people look and feel their best so they can positively impact the world. That's why I show up every day. I cannot not show up every day because that is my why. I cannot not be here for you because that is my why. And that isn't my why professionally. That is my why as a person. Like anytime I'm with somebody, my goal is to help them just feel their best or even look their best because that's just, I just have that creative eye. Like I just like, you know what, let me help you in a way that is good for you. Let me meet you where you're at and help you feel and look your best. Because I know that when you feel and look your best, you're going to go out there in the world and you're going to do something great. It's a ripple effect. And I want to be a source of that ripple effect for people. And that's why I show up. But you remember, one of my values was community. So it makes sense, right? It makes sense because that's my value. That's what I live. But that's just me doing a lot of work to understand that. And that's where I want you guys to start today. Okay. So I'm not going to leave you hanging. Good coach wouldn't leave you hanging. I got some support tools for you. So after today, you're going to have 2 support tools available for you on the same, I call it a portal. I don't know if I'm calling it right, but whatever it is that you go and register that area, you're going to get 2 worksheets. And the first is the Beauty Flow Method Find Your Why worksheet. On this worksheet, it serves as your anchor. This worksheet, you will list your 4 to 5 values that you identified on your awareness page. You're going to list 2 or 3 areas that are your top 3 priorities in life. Like those areas that nourish you, those top 3. I'm going to pick 3 that you feel like are your top priorities. And then you're going to pick 2 or 3 areas that you feel like you need to make better progress in. And what I mean by better progress is like where you feel like you want to make some adjustments so that you can get more in line with where you want to spend most of your time and where you want to spend your priorities. Then at the bottom of the page is where you're going to write your why. This page, I would suggest to put it in a place where you can see it every day. Refrigerator, tape it to your bathroom mirror, put it up in your bulletin board and your cubicle. If you're at salon service group, put it somewhere where you can see it. Not somewhere where it folds up in your purse, but somewhere where you can see it. It is your anchor. Every day, look at that. It's a practice. Like, listen, this is a practice. And what I mean by practice is that it takes practice every single day. The other worksheet that you're going to have available to you is what I just have as program goals. Now, I give this to my clients in the program. Again, we're not doing one-on-one coaching here. I'm always available for you if you want to do one-on-one coaching, right? But I wanted you to have something that was like, what are my goals? Like, what do I want to achieve in 1 month, 2 months, and 3 months? And here's the thing, they have to be realistic. They have to be measurable. Have you guys ever heard of SMART goals? They have to be like SMART goals, but I gave it to you anyway, even though we're not doing one-on-one coaching together, because I just want you to if you want to set your goals for the next month and a half of sessions we have here, I just want you to have that available to you. Okay? Because remember, the coach's magic formula includes practice and accountability. So consider today your education. Consider today you learning about the importance of all of these aspects of finding your why, your value, and understanding like why it's so important to you and how you show up and how you look and you feel about yourself. The practice, that is going to be your choice to continue or not. It's a choice. You can choose not to practice. That's cool. Or you can choose to practice. So I want to know from you, who's going to choose? Who's going to choose to practice? You, yeah. I see you. I see you. I see Anna, Marianne, Jessica, Lisa, Kimberly, Brooke. I see you guys. Yeah. It's your choice. You can choose to prioritize it. You don't have to. Don't feel guilt or shame if you don't prioritize it. It's all good. Here's the missing step. There's no accountability because you don't have a coach running after you. But you can DM me. You can share with me your why in Instagram and on Facebook DMs. You can message me. I can't keep you accountable because I'm not your coach. I am a coach. I'm not your coach right now. But you can keep yourself accountable if you want. That is a choice. And that is how you're going to transform. So here is a way that I like to end a lot of my sessions, because we are almost out of time here, is to do a self-connection check-in moment. After, like right now, I hope that your body is buzzing. I hope you're feeling like so freaking motivated that you can jump out of your skin to get to work. That is my goal. Not sure if you feel that way, but I hope you do. Okay. Hold on one second. I'm not sure you feel that way, but if you do, I hope. Okay. What I would love for you guys to do right now is take a moment to check in with yourself. I'm going to say this over and over again. Your body is smarter than your mind. Your body holds more truth than your mind. So right now, I want you to listen to your body. I want you to turn off your mind. Everyone, just take a moment to close your eyes. Put your hand on your heart. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Now through your mouth. Take 2 more deep breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth. Your deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. And take a moment to listen to what your body is saying to you. Excitement, joy, is it fear? Feel the body. Don't think, just feel. Open up your eyes. When you feel your body, that is the authentic you talking. When you shut off the mind, you can listen to who you really are and what's important. I don't want you to be perfect. I want you to be aware. That's what this whole thing is about. Learning to just be aware of how you feel. That's all. Next week, we are going to be getting into the Let It Go portion, where we discuss the education of the axis of beauty and the neuroscience and brain function. We're going to talk about meditation and mindfulness, and we're going to begin after the session. I'm going to give you guys my signature journal prompts to help strengthen your body intelligence and rewiring your new thought patterns. As always, you can connect with me on social media. I encourage you to DM me with all your wins. This week, if something comes up and you're like, oh my God, Sandy, I had a shift. Like what you said, I practiced and here's what happened. Please share that with me. Any questions you have. And I would love for you guys to share with me your why statement this week on Instagram or on Facebook. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to do one quick thing. We just need to, Jamie, I'm going to get you there. Hold on one second. Let's see. Can you talk, Jamie, or no?
Yep, I can talk.
Okay. I'm trying to.
Hang on, just 1 second. Go into. Oh, I'm in full screen. Whoops. Go into more. Nope, sorry, I was wrong.
Yeah.
It was a second ago. Oh, sorry. Go to participants and then click me and
I see ya.
make me. Yep, make me the host.
Cool.
Yep.
Right.
There we go.
Thank you, guys.
Sandy, that was such an awesome session. Thank you so much. We are so excited to be doing this with you. I want to once again thank Gino for funding this and doing everything for it. Also, real quick, I just dropped the I'm going to, hang on. I put the link right here to the worksheets. Those will be up momentarily on the website. I just put it in the chat. That link is also available if you go to any of the posts for this event on our social media page. And then we are also emailing that link out a couple days before each session. So look out in your email for it, check social media, or just bookmark it right there. So I'll have those worksheets up in just a minute. Thanks. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.